George Tsiolis, founder of AGORACOM, and with us, as always, is our chief market commentator, Allan Laboucan. Allan, say hello.
Hello, everybody. We got a big show today. Got a bunch of good picks. George and I have been going through some battles recently, but I think I got a sneaky feeling Georgie might be coming around a little on the gold stock soon. So
it's also our Thanksgiving Day edition because it's the Wednesday before Thanksgiving in the U.S. So I want to wish happy Thanksgiving to everyone's going to be watching this. And I know you're going to have time after eating your turkey. You're going to be sitting around watching some of this because you're not going to have a lot more to do on Friday after the Cowboys beat the Eagles on Thanksgiving Thursday. You can watch us on Friday and then find out how you're going to pay for Thanksgiving next week when you make our stock picks.
I hope we can beat them, Georgie.
All right, so we got a few picks lined up. I'm going to do my screen share here as I always do, so I can pick up, so I can bring up the screen, show everyone what we got. Let me know when you've got that there in front of you, Allan.
Yeah, I'm seeing it. Hey, before we get started with that, George, I was wondering how you're feeling about. I mentioned it earlier there. How you're feeling about gold stocks these days? Are you still piling up that shopping list and getting ready for the tax loss selling? I've noticed.
Definitely am. I definitely am. This close to tax loss selling, there's no point trying to be a hero when you know you're going to have deals. It's like buying 2 days before Christmas when you know you're going to have Boxing Day deals coming down the road. What's the point, right? So, yeah, I'm definitely getting a list together, that's for sure. And I get an example of one of them that got away from me. So just trying to show the perils of waiting some time. I've got one.
Yeah, Rubicon's another one. You take a look at Rubicon there. It's another one that kind of, you get a little too cute trying to wait for tax loss selling. You can pull that one up there. Rubicon is RMX. Ah, gosh, I got too many stock symbols in my head, George.
All right, well, let's go. Let's see what we're looking at here. TSX Venture Exchange 771. All right, you see here's the 1 year chart that's going to propagate on the right hand side in a second. But here's what I want to talk about. Synapses. I got a couple to talk about quickly. So there's our TSX Venture right here. You can all see my mouse. My bam seems to have stabilized though, right? All right.
We're sort of seeing the same thing with gold. Are you thinking, George, that the low in gold is in now, or do you think we're going to take another shot at?
I think short term the low in gold is in. I don't see a catalyst for it to go lower. I really don't see it for it to go lower. In fact, the U.S. markets are a little too. I think they're a little too richly valued. I think people are going to have to back off a little bit, so it's not a case of piling into equities and get out of gold. You got the upcoming vote in Switzerland about the gold back, about how much gold they can keep in reserve there in the banks.
What's going to happen there, George, with that Swiss?
Short term, I'm feeling good about gold. I don't see. You remember at 1400, 1350, 1325, 1275, 12. I didn't like it. Yeah. But I think we're there now, and I'm definitely going to get more bullish with my picks. So here's what I want to show you first. Synapses Therapeutics. I'll go through mine quickly. CTH on the TSX Venture Exchange. Close at $1.20. Let me decrease some columns here so I get that 50-day volume so everyone can see that. Trades an average of 230,000 shares a day, so good liquidity. Here is a. Let me show you this, Allan. Here's the tweet that I put out. All right, so let me bring that up. Let's see, I got to bring up, let's see if I get this right here. Hold on. There it is. Going back to screen share. This is the disadvantage of dealing with one. Right there. Here's a tweet that I put out, and in fact, you remember we talked about it on the show, but here's a tweet I put out on October 20th, and here's why. If you know the story from the fundamental point of view, and then you know the technicals, you can do great. Okay, so here clearly I put out October 20th. Synapse on breakout watch. See if it can hold the 200-day moving average on close or breaks 83, which is a buy signal, right? Why? Take a look at that 200-day moving average there. Great fundamentals coming out of the company. Bam. Now they're sitting at $1.20. So there's an example where, let's say, break 83 and you got around 85 cents. You're looking at a 50%, pretty much a 50% profit, a little less than that, 45% profit in a month.
Did you were you able to get on top of it, or were you breakout watching it too much?
No, no. Here, I put in my bids at 85 cents the next morning and did not get filled.
Um,
So hopefully, people who were watching had a little better luck.
that's like
Um,
a 50% gain.
yep, yep. That's a monster, and one that's a month. But and that was on our show, right? That was on this show.
Okay.
So
I
great.
don't remember that one, George. What do they do?
Remember this? This is the company.
Oh, I remember the chart, actually. I don't remember the company.
So they deal with Michael J. Fox. What's he suffering from?
Oh, Parkinson's. Right.
What,
The diagnostic thing for Parkinson's.
and what they have is what they've created is, so one thing I didn't know is that Parkinson's patients quite often suffer from something called freezing, which means they will literally freeze. They can't move. And the way to unfreeze them, I guess, is they have to, up until now, they've had to inject them with needles, which is dangerous because not everyone has someone around them that's, how many of us are queasy about needles, right? But you've got to force somebody around you, an older person, it's dangerous, right? Well,
Yeah.
what they developed is a strip. You know those gum strips, those breath mint strips, Al?
Yeah.
You put them on your tongue, they dissolve, and you got fresh breath. Got same thing here. And just recently, they announced some positive results in their testing. They announced that when they're around $1.05, and the stock made another move. So just wanted to bring that up as an example of why the show is so valuable and how we're able to find companies that very few other people can find. So that's my story on Synapsis there. Let me get back to the list. The other one is BSM Technologies. Still have this on a buy. I bought this at $1.23. I round tripped it almost. What it means I wrote up to about $1.50 and I've written it back. Not for lack of effort though. I've had my sell orders in at $1.49, $1.50, and I just couldn't get them filled. There wasn't enough volume there. So I'm
George,
round tripping. But I think this is.
can you pull that chart up so we can see it?
Oh, that's right. My apologies. All right, so I'll actually give you a 3-month chart here. You can see the 3-month chart?
Yeah.
All right, so here's a 3-month chart, and I picked it up somewhere right around here, right around, no, actually it would have been here, right? It would have been somewhere right in here a couple of weeks ago, or maybe even further back, I can't remember. But anyways, boys, I picked up $1.23, I tweeted it. I think it has a long way. I think it's going to be a big winner in 2015 for whatever reason. This is just too cheap right now.
Hey, George, why don't you go back to a 2-year chart and you can folks can see how it was. Last year it had a great year. It was sort of one of those stocks that go from the bottom left to the top right.
Yeah.
And this year it's been the opposite. It's top right to the bottom, top left to the bottom right.
So there we are in 2013. End of 2000, right around tax loss selling season 2012, 2 years ago, 90 cents. Shot up to a high right there of 345. And remember, Allan and I, especially me, were banging the table in here, right in this area right here, where I was saying that this is going to be a $4 stock, and it made its way up to 345. Now, what I didn't see was this massive drop. But you and I, along the way, were calling it around here. I said, "All right, it's not acting good, so take profits." And it was great. It was great that we made that call because we got out of it. Remember, the market always knows something you don't. We didn't know what was going on, but the market was telling us something was happening.
Well, I don't know what it was telling us because I still haven't learned, George. It's been a year now, and I see the company continuously getting better than they were in 2014. I just see no fundamental reason why the stock got beaten down like this. It actually looks to me like it's shaping up for that late 2012 to the end of 2014 kind of run for the stock again. The way it's trading lately, looks like it's bottoming.
Yeah, I think so too. If you haven't got it, I went long $1.23, so I would disclose any conflicts. I think it's going to have a bang-up year. I think what you and I don't know, and we didn't see the news, there wasn't a problem with the company. My gut tells me small cap redemptions were taking place, and I've heard that story before in other companies. What does that mean? There are funds out there holding small cap stocks. They get redemptions because remember the TSX Venture just wasn't doing well, and especially towards the end of the year, right? And take a look here, especially, right? I think this is almost a mirror of the TSX Venture Exchange.
That's probably a pretty valid reason, George, because I was noticing when I looked at the chart, I was thinking, man, that thing's trading like a junior mining stock.
Yeah, and funds for sure were getting redemptions, which mean people want their money back. They're getting scared, and what do? Funds. It's hard to sell a stock that's down 75%. So you sell the one, unfortunately, because they have to. You sell the one that you're probably up 100% on, and bang, 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 bang. Here we are. Going to tax loss selling, I put this at a massive risk reward here. If I was to buy it, like I've got my buy here at $1.23, my stop loss on it would be I won't take a 20% hit on it. So if it was to break a buck, then I'd sell it because there's really something really bad going on that we don't know about. But
I've always liked this pick, George. I'm a tech guy as well as a mining guy, and what they do is very interesting to me. They help companies to make more money by using technology, and they're in industries where they're making lots of money. Right, these companies are making lots of money, but these BSM can help them squeeze even more profit out, and I think that that's a very lucrative business. So I like the technology, I like the company, and I just think it's pretty beaten down right now.
Yeah, it's going to be a winner. It's going to be a winner, and almost no doubt about it in my mind. Barkerville Gold Mines. Okay, here's one that I had, and I think I actually mentioned it once on the show, where I said this is one on my watch list. So let me go to the 1 month chart here. Okay. So here's an example of one that got a Barkerville BGM, 35 cents, trades 400,000 plus shares a day. So this is near the top of my list, and look at it, just back in November the 7th.
It's funny to bring that one up today, George. I was in Vancouver yesterday at some meetings. I came out of the elevator, and Frank Callahan was there. We had a little chat, and he looks pretty enthusiastic these days.
Well, 12-cent low. I thought this was going to be one of my top friggin' picks in tax loss selling time. I just figured, remember, it wasn't I was waiting individual in Barkerville. As a general rule of thumb, I got my list, and I pick up the ones that are going to be beaten down the most, and I don't try and play a hero. So unfortunately, this is one time when the strategy works against you, because take a look, 12 cents. In fact, I could probably do a 10-day chart to show an even bigger move. But
here back to that chart, George, and it kind of crossed some of your indicators that you generally like to get involved with. I think blue line is a 9-day.
Well, 12 cents to 40-cent high, 39 cents was a killer. So let's take a look at the. I want to back out. So here's the 6-month chart right here. It broke through the 50. It broke through the 9. Great momentum, and now it's butting up against a 200-day moving average, and you can see it hasn't had a lot of luck breaking through the 200-day moving average. Take a look at that green line right there. This is the 1-year chart. Here's the 2-year chart. I mean, it had been halted here, so this doesn't really count. But it's been really difficult trying to get through the 200-day moving average. So I'd be a seller if I had bought this position, and I might even be shorting it just on technicals. But I'm not a shorter on venture stocks as they can.
I got a feeling you'll be able to get that for 22, 23 cents before the end of the year.
Well, listen, so you got support at 28 and then 21, so that is that sweet spot. And if I can get it there, I probably will take it, actually, because they got good stuff going on. But that's just an example I want to show everyone of how I can get away from it. Here's a couple of picks I want everyone to put their radar on. Ariane Phosphate, DAN on the Venture Exchange. Great company, great project here. Let me pop something up.
Really,
what's that?
George, fallen out of bed in the last month or so. What happened?
I don't know what happened, actually, because they closed an $8 million financing back in October. They announced a mineral resource. This is on their project here. So let me give you the exact name of the project. The development of the Lac Épal phosphate deposits, located about 200 kilometers north of Lac Saint-Jean in Quebec. These deposits are going to produce a high quality igneous appetite concentrate grading 39% phosphate with little or no contaminants. And the company has 9. So they're well financed. Great project. The problem is their IR and PR has sucked. And people have kind of grown impatient with it. So I think this is a great time. I mean, take a look at the 2-year chart. I might even go back 3 years.
You know, it's funny you bring that up, George, about the IR. I've been having, you know, as I've joined a couple companies recently, I've been having to get into the management side of things. And, you know, one of the things I've wanted to talk about with the companies is their marketing plans. And, you know, there's a chronic problem with a lot of IR people, George, that, you know, most of them are so focused on trying to promote the stock. I've always been the kind of guy who wants to promote the company, the projects, the people, and I think that, you know, the sort of litmus test there is that old-fashioned stock promotion. You know, oh, we got news coming out soon, the stock's tight, it's going to go up. Yeah. You know, those kind of pitches aren't going to work anymore, and I think that's probably, you know, I bet if you called that company up, and you talk.
Actually, I have. They used to be a client of ours years ago, and I've been pitching them hard because they had 2 firms. One was too small for them, and one was too big for them. And but hopefully we can do some work with them. But either way, it's just a great pick because they need to get. You're right. You can't promote anymore on the stock. You got to promote the company. You look at this company. I want you to tell me next week about the quality of its project. But it's pretty fantastic.
Well, I've already started to do a little bit of looking at it, George, and they got a significant resource there.
Yep.
And they've been able to attract money. I mean, why wouldn't you want to try to, as an investor relations marketing person, why wouldn't you want to market the quality of the company over what the vagaries of a stock from day to day? I mean, I don't really care.
By the way, I'm not saying that's what the other guys did. But whatever they're doing, there's no chatter on AGORACOM, no chatter anywhere about this company with a project of this size. You know, this is definitely in your leader bucket, right? And nobody knows about it.
And having no problems raising money.
Yeah. So, but that's to everyone's advantage watching at home right now, and our advantage, right? Which is, all right, they did a terrible job of marketing the company, so let's take advantage of that. So do your DD, and maybe you can come back next week and tell us about your thoughts. But I think everyone at home should do theirs as well.
Sure, I'll write that down right now, George. I'll take a look, closer look.
And the Venture Exchange. Next company up is a client of AGORACOM and a sponsor, Xylitol Canada. The company has announced their revenues through the first 3 quarters of the year. They're up over $6 million. They've already surpassed their revenue from the entire last year, and they're moving into their biggest quarter seasonally of the year. This is the natural sweetener company that Allan himself is using the products. So I can't say anything about the charts or anything like that. What I think everyone should be doing is they should watch the latest interview that I did with Xylitol's Matt Willer. He's a dynamo there. He's a VP of Sales and Marketing. Watch that and start your due diligence. You can find that on AGORACOM by going to the Xylitol Hub. But just too good. You know, when you see that kind of revenue growth and we need real companies, this is a company worthy of further research by people.
Yeah, I don't think it's any problem that I talk about the chart, George. I mean,
you can talk about it, sure.
I'm not making anything up, but it looks to me like it's had a couple of good bottoms recently, and is probably ready to rally off of that. This has nothing to do with whether they're a client of yours or not. It's just purely me looking at the stock chart, and then I also consider the products as this company puts out, and they've got some new people into the company as well. I'm a fan of Xylitol. I think that there's a few things that I'd like to see them do better on the marketing and the branding. You know, their products are pretty poorly named, and I hope that maybe they change that in the future. I mean, Zyla strawberry jam doesn't really roll off the tongue very well.
Yeah, and I've heard that before. Actually, I'll tell you, I've heard that before. So maybe they will. Maybe they will go. I don't know. I have no idea from that side, but I have heard that as a constructive criticism from other people.
You know, George, I get why they've used that name. They're trying to promote xylitol, which is a natural sweetener that not a lot of people know about. So I get why they named it now, but I think that, you sort of have to evolve your marketing and your branding, right? And I think that, now they want to brand it so that it's more of a consumer product that will catch people's attention. Because, I mean, I'd like to see a name that sort of encapsulates using a natural sweetener that's 50% the calories of sugar. Somehow get that across in your branding.
And finally, QE2 Acquisition Corp, QE on the TSX Venture Exchange, also a client of AGORACOM, a new client of AGORACOM. I did an interview with them. Again, revenue. That's why I'm bringing this up, not because they're a client.
Yeah, George, let me ask you something. That thing was a flatliner for a long time. What happened? Did they?
So this was another company here. They did the reverse merger here. They vended into the shell. So this is a dead company before it, and they just took over the shell.
All right, gotcha. Well, it's certainly come to life since they vended in their what did they vend in?
So they vended. So what they're doing, first of all, revenue. They just announced $2.3 million revenue for the quarter ended July 30th. That was their last quarter they announced, right? That tells me revenue. That's what you want to see nowadays. And what they're doing, Al, is they're consolidating. They're buying up Alberta privately held infrastructure companies, not oil and gas plays, but infrastructure. For example, one of their companies does the rails and railing on highways and roads.
Oh, okay.
Another one of their companies does all the street lamps and the lights and all of that. Sounds like boring businesses, but as my guest on the interview I did with them just this week said, boring is sexy.
Did you tweet that out, George? I didn't see that. I would have watched that show.
It should have been out there, but for everyone at home, just go to AGORACOM and go to the QE Hub and watch that interview. These guys know what they're doing. They're $2.3 million in one quarter. Extrapolate that, right? And here's what the great thing is, Allan. They're focusing on Alberta. We all know Alberta is very rich, and they're dedicated to two things: maintaining their infrastructure. Unlike other cities and provinces or even states around North America where they don't have the budget and bridges are falling apart, Alberta is maintaining, and they have a plan for the next 20 years. They know exactly how they're going to expand their infrastructure. So these guys are going in there and they're consolidating privately held, small but really great infrastructure companies and putting them under one umbrella. So in return, they're providing the owners of these companies with some security that they're part of a larger brand and a larger company, because as we all know, or you may not know, when you hold a company privately on your own as an entrepreneur, you're one heartbeat away from your family being lost at the end of the day. Now that these companies are joining QE2, they've got equity. They're part of a bigger team. It's almost like they're all working together for the security of each other. So and they grow, and that they're very confident that they're going to grow their value with QE2. So definitely something for people to watch.
Alrighty.
All right, let's go into Al's picks here. Ivanhoe Mines, IVM, trades on the TSX. Love the volume, 600,000 shares. That means they're doing about $600,000 a day in trading volume. So I love the liquidity. We've talked about Ivanhoe before. Here's the one-year chart. Looks to be on a bit of a rebound with some real convergence here of the 9-day and the 50-day moving average. So this is a critical point after recovery. What do you think, Al, about Ivanhoe?
Okay, first of all, George, I'm going to change things up a little bit. I've kind of had a little bit of I've been thinking about the way I make my picks on the show. And sometimes, I'm trying to pick things and sort of what I see happening in the, over the next few days sometimes. What I'm going to look at instead, I've got some stock charts on stocks here, and I think I'm going to start looking out a little bit further and give you some insight into what I see going on there. The reason that
you're always more of a longer-term guy than I was, right? I was always a 30, 60-day guy. You were more of a 3 to 6 month guy.
Yeah, but the problem in my mind of what I was doing was that, these companies are on my list because they've recently had news out. And so it was more of a, immediate sort of thing, but I want to sort of blend that into my immediate news and blend it into what I see coming ahead for the company. So just a little bit of change here, and I think you'll
Sure.
understand what I'm doing. So I'm going to go to the screen share here, and I'm going to bring up my chart, George. Where is it? Oh gosh, I got it in the wrong place here. There, okay. Sorry about this, George. I always scramble with these damn screen share things here. Um, where are we here? There we go. Okay, so I got Ivanhoe's stock chart up there. Can you see it, George?
Yeah, it's just coming up right. It's just coming up right now.
Okay, so
Yeah. Go ahead.
last week I talked about the company.
Hey, can you maximize that screen? Or is it me? Is your screen maximized?
That's as maximized as I can get it.
Okay. All right.
Right there. So last week I talked about this company, and the reason was that they recently got their permits they got their approval for a big platinum and palladium mine in South Africa. And so, as you can see here, George, I think you've got a convergence of the stock bottoming and starting to trend upwards based on.
You picked it down there.
Yeah.
Ivanhoe's been on the last month. So
Yeah, I've had it a couple times. Yeah, I've been really starting to like Ivanhoe a lot. And so here you've got, one of my favorite trends when you've come out of a bottom and you start making higher highs and higher lows. But, sometimes that can happen purely because the stock is oversold. But usually when that happens, George, you'll get one higher high and one lower low, right? And then it starts to break down again. In this case, I think what fuels that stock going forward, where I expect it to be trading, up in this direction on following this kind of a trend. So you've got a bottom here, you got a rising bottom there, you've got a rising bottom there. I think that's the kind of trajectory you're going to see going forward for this company, because not only are they getting good news out of their project for platinum and palladium, they're also getting it for base metals as well. This is a company that's run by Robert Friedland, and even looking at the MACD here, it's starting to turn really positive as well. You can see it, and you'll probably see it better in your histogram. Mine's a little bit light colored, George.
Right.
The definite MACDs are starting to gain some strength, so that's why I like that one.
I'm going to take a look at my chart here. I'm not sure if it's popping up for you or not.
No, I don't think so. Oh, yeah, there it is. Yep, I see it.
Boy, that's fun. Okay, there we are. So let me take a look at the 1 year, and I'll give you my quick. Man, look at that convergence of moving averages. All I can see is it's a real traffic jam right here, the dollar range. And that tells me if it breaks out, it's going to break out. It's going to break out really hard. But look at all these moving averages that are converging here, right around the dollar range.
George, I'm not seeing your cursor moving around the screen or anything. Is there something going on there?
Are you looking at the? Are you able to see the big? Are you seeing the big chart?
I'm seeing the one where you have 4 or 5 different charts, or different cells full of.
Hold on. Let me bring up the advanced chart. All right, so you're gonna have to come back to my face here for a second, and let me bring up the advanced chart. All right, so there we go, right there.
Now you see your MACD histogram there, George. It's got.
So first of all, here are the moving averages all tightly wound together right here. That tells me a lot. There's a lot of support, there's a lot of battle in there. The histogram down here is actually showing a bit of a slowing, but I wouldn't think that's because of the company. I still think that's just logic tells me that you had this move right off the bottom here this month from 81 cents up to here. So you've got 2 things happening at this time of the year. It's almost impossible for it to not happen. Is you're getting guys who are taking quick profits because they're able to pick off that bottom, and you still got people who are going to do some selling because look, during the year it was as high as $2.06, and now it's sitting under a buck. So people are going to be trading those. So I'd be patient and wait it out a little bit again because I'm not making any buys. But yeah, here's what you're talking about as far as it's curious that the MACD went up to didn't quite break through zero, which is what you want to see and see it keep going. So my gut tells me, not my gut, but my tech tells me that this is going to go through a little bit more weakness, but you got to be buying this at tax loss selling. I would definitely be buying.
Your MACD histogram there tells you the same story. It's kind of
right here,
back there, and softening up a little bit. I don't think it's the kind of softness that'll. I think what it'll do is probably get back close to zero and then bounce off of that.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to get back to the low 80s that it got to for whatever reason at the beginning of the month. So if you can get this 88, 90, don't get greedy. If you can get a 90, don't get greedy. I think it's something you want to hold on to.
Yeah, I think this kind of company, George, I'm thinking that we've been through a few very tough years for the junior sector, and I'm starting to see a lot of commodities right now trading at under the average cost of producing them. That tends not to last for very long, and so I think that 2015 is going to be a better year for quality resource companies, and Ivanhoe is one of the better ones that I can find on the platinum and palladium front.
Let's talk about your next one here, which is West Dome Gold Mines, TSX company, WDO. Average volume 100,000 shares a day, so you're talking about 90,000 shares a day in volume. Take a look at the chart. Really, this is the opposite here. Mid-October, it hit its low and at around 62 cents, and since then it's been a great ride. You're talking about a 50% gain pretty much since then. Breaking through its moving averages, and looks like it's finding support on the 9-day, which is good because the short-term people aren't bailing out on it. And it's got a history of maintaining. Let's take a look at that 200-day. So it's got a pretty good history of maintaining that 200-day moving average. The only time it really got weak was in mid-October when everyone was running for the hills, thinking the world was going to collapse. So I would think, it's got support at 82 cents. Tell us why you like it.
Okay, George, here's a perfect example of what I was talking about earlier as far as me sort of changing my my mindset about how I'm talking about companies. Here's a company that has been on a really strong rally of late, and it's based on recent results. They had some very good drill results from their project in Quebec, 45 grams of gold over 5 meters. This project is up near Val d'Or, Quebec. I really liked what I saw out of the drill results, but then for this show in the past, I might have been, I might not have talked about this one because it's made such a big move. And so what I'm getting at is how I'm changing things is I want to talk about this company because of the quality of the drill results, but I'm also looking at this big move in the chart and I'm saying, well, I think that it's going to probably roll over here and come down and test this, this 81 to 84 range.
Well, like I said, the 200-day moving average is pretty much around 82 cents. So that's what I'm saying. I think it's going to find support there at 82. You could probably be a buyer and be comfortable there.
So you get what I'm talking about, George, how I've kind of changed the mindset a little bit. I don't want to not talk about this company because they've had great results and the stock has moved up so much. I like the results. I just think the stock has probably got a little ahead of itself. Let it calm down. Maybe you get it back at 80-ish, 81, 82 kind of range. And I think that one's going to perform well after that.
Next one up, Red Knee Solutions, RKN. So let's bring that up here. RKN on the TSX. Look at that. So you talk about a $3.70 stock with 364,000 shares a day of average volume, so well over $1 million a day in liquidity. Like everything else, has had a tough time since July. We're sitting up here in the 550 range, and now it's at 377. Uh, tell us what you're thinking. But you got this convergence here: the 9-day and the 50, the 9-day and the 50-day are 374 and 388. Um, so what do you like in there?
Hey, actually, this is one that I recently brought up once or twice, George, on the show. It's a tech play. I think you've got the chart's up there. Okay, so I'm going to first start on the news. They had some news out earlier. They just signed a $13 million strategic order with Leaping APAC Enterprise. This company's been seeing some nice order flow coming in. Then I look at the stock chart, George, and what I really like is, yeah, they've been under pressure since back here, but they created a second bottom that was higher than that one. And since this area here, let's say since about mid-October, I'm really liking the performance, which is around the time that I started talking about the company on the show. I'm really liking this performance. Higher high, significantly higher high than this last sort of peaky high, significantly higher low. What I also like about this low I'm pointing at right here, if you follow the hash back here, this was formerly sort of a resistance level, right? And now they kind of use that as a new support. I like that a lot. And then another higher high. I'm liking a lot of what I see in the stock charts and the fundamentals of this company, George.
Yeah, I'm taking a look at my chart quickly, and to save everyone the back and forth, and massive conversions here in the 387, 387, 384, 394. I'm just reading off some moving average points here. So the bottom of the Bollinger Band is 365. Let me take a look at a couple things here.
Yeah, why don't you focus in on that one so we can see the Bollinger Bands a little bit better there, George?
All right, let me bring it up here. So let me go screen share to come up, and then screen share again.
Oh, you can't just switch.
Nope. Yeah, I can't just switch. I'm not sure why it doesn't do that with one screen. I wish I could just do it. So here is, can you see it right here?
Yeah, even the Bollinger Bands are tightening up.
Oh yeah. So for those, look at the Bollinger Bands get wide. That's this top here. See this yellow shade area with this bottom here. See how wide that can be? That's as high as over there. That's as high as $6 down to $4, a $2 difference. Here, the Bollinger Bands are now pretty much 50 cents apart. Lot of support. I think this is a great buy here. I think this is a great buy, and I would set 350 as a stop loss just in case it gets away. And actually, I would probably set this level. No, that would be too low. I wouldn't want to get there. I'd probably set I'd set 350. I'd set the bottom of the. I'd set 360, 355 as my stop loss just in case it gets away from you. But I think you got great. I think you got great potential here for a move. Again, I'm not going to be a buyer of anything until mid-December, just because I just want to see who shakes out and who has the most weakness. But if I had to go long today and tell me, George, you got to buy 5,000 shares of that to hold for the next year, I'd feel comfortable.
Got it.
All right, so going back to screen share, and you guys got to take a look at my beautiful face again.
What's the next company up there? I think it's...
Yep, that's what I'm bringing up here. Next one up is Paramount, PZG, Paramount Silver and Gold, which we've talked about a couple of times on the show. 83 cents. Average volume is 13,000 shares a day, so not a ton of liquidity there.
George, you do this to me every time on this one. They also trade on the New York Stock Exchange.
Oh, all right, PZG. Okay, on New York as well.
Yeah.
PZG.US. So let's bring that up. You got to remind me of that. So let me get rid of this Canadian symbol. US 500,000 shares a day at 71 cents. That's more like it. There's the 1 year chart you can see to my right. So it's been as high as $1.60-ish or so, and now we're down 50% on what is otherwise a really good company. It's been as low as 65. What are you thinking here?
Very good company. Yeah, they just had results out for their San Miguel project down in Mexico, talking about their expanding the San Francisco bulk tonnage potential at San Miguel. so they can get in there and produce, move a lot of rock and make some serious money off of this silver and gold project. So I liked what I saw with the news. Then I look at the stock chart, George, and look at this bottom here. I'm seeing this starting to, where in the past when I brought up gold stocks, I was seeing, this trend here. Now I'm starting to see, and I was seeing it on a bunch of companies. Now I'm starting to see this sort of reversal where we've hit bottoms, and now it's starting to sneak up. I'm why I'm taking that as such a strong indicator, George, is that this is happening while we're in tax loss selling. So this is another reason why I think we're going to get off to a good start in January for these stocks, these high quality juniors. And I think that that January effect is often a good indicator of the rest of the year. So I'm pretty optimistic about gold and silver and copper and oil and technology. So I got a good mix in here, and this is one of them, PZG.
You can't wait to see my picks, can you? Come tax loss selling time, because I'm stacking up. I'm stacking up some candidates. So I make the picks. It's all over the place.
Don't get too excited. You don't forget. Last year we had a tax loss selling. Although you beat me recently, you didn't. You suffered a little more pain last year.
Hey, if we can both make those returns again, that's the kind of pain I'll take. Allan made 47%. No doubt. Allan made 47%. I made 33% over 50 days. Not even a full 2 months. So we hit it out of the park there. Balmoral. BAR, Balmoral Resources, $1.28, trades in the TSX, 300,000 shares a day in volume. Again, look at this. You know what? It's almost kind of distressing me. Take a look at, and the same with PZG and Westdome. It seems like this early November, I don't know if was everybody presuming tax loss selling, so they just took their losses early to get back in on these things? Because another example of a stock that hits low in early November, here it is at $1, and as low as 92 cents, and now it's sitting at $1.28.
Well, I think what you got to remember, George, is they probably had that plunge while the price of gold was getting beaten on down to that 1250 range.
Sure.
And so now that gold, 1150, sorry. Now that gold is sort of turned to the positive, these things, look at this thing, George. Look at how dramatically it was getting beaten down. Just even if nothing happened, it should pop, right? Well, you get gold started to get a little stronger, and that's why they're popping. Now, this company also recently had some drill results out. 57 meters of grading, 1.85% nickel, 0.21% copper, even has some platinum and palladium in there as well at their Grasset project. This company has a few high-quality projects, George, and it's from a group of managers. The management of the company has already been through the find something and sell it to a bigger company scenario once already. And I think they got a great shot with it again. These guys at Balmoral are doing a lot of good stuff with the drill rig. And then you look at then they're getting rewarded here recently. Nice bottom. Now, this one I think again is one that you might want to wait. I think you can probably, you see where my line is there, George? You follow my line. It's at an average price of about $1.16.
Right.
You look at the sort of others, the before and after of that spike down, that move down, and it was about $1.16. Now it popped above that, but it's struggling here a little bit at the 50-day moving average. What I'd like to see is the stock come back closer to the 20-day, which gets you in at around $1.16. So here again is another one that I like the drill results so much I wanted to talk about them on the show. A little nervous about the stock. I think it's it's ready for a little bit of some profit taking, but after that it's one of those after that kind of picks. Is what I really like, is the opportunity to see it take a little bit of a back steps and then get ready for the next rally.
Yeah, I agree. And last one is Corvus Gold, KOR on the TSX. Volume isn't great, so total dollar volume is about $40,000 a day in liquidity.
They trade in the States too, George.
KOR.
Yeah.
All right. Why don't you tell me these things?
I forget. I always forget until you start giving me trouble about how much they trade on every day.
Hold on, it's not KOR, so let me bring up their last press release where they probably will have
I'm pretty sure.
CORVF, so let me bring that up there. Hold on.
Oh, maybe, no, you might be right. Maybe this one doesn't trade on any of the big exchanges down in the States.
Yeah. Well, listen, and that's fine. That's not that's just more for me as a trader.
Yeah.
I like seeing more liquidity, but there's Corvus has been around for a long time. Oh, by the way, I forgot to show you one thing on Balmoral. Sorry, I want to point something out to everybody. Remember that a year ago, so here it is in mid-December, so it was at 30 cents.
Right.
It went from 30 to a high of $1.95. So how's that for return in 1 year? Back down to the low 90s, and now sitting at $1.28. So, anyways, just want to make sure I point that out to everybody.
That's in a year that was not very good for the juniors. So they've been really good.
That says a lot. And the 200-day moving average, you're talking about the $1.16 area. I like the fact that the 200-day moving average was held up for most of the year. So I'm going to bet on it again. So if it gets down to $1.20, $1.22.
Yeah,
I'm a buyer. I'm a buyer. That's where I'm a buyer.
That's the number I was calling. Yeah.
Balmoral. Sorry, not Balmoral. Corvus Gold. Again, same thing. Look at that. Right there, November. That first week of November got beaten down to 80 cents, back up to $1.05. So it's made a pretty significant move. And it's right here, sitting at again some important moving average levels between the 9 and the 50-day. What is about Corvus Gold that we should be paying attention to?
Yeah, I've been following this project they have down in Nevada for a long time. It's called the North Bullfrog Project, and it's sort of a double kind of focused project. They've got some low-grade, high-tonnage portions of the property, but lately they've been really focusing in on the Yellow Jacket area, and the Yellow Jacket area has been returning some very nice results. 1.7 meters of 145 grams per ton gold and 22 grams per ton silver. So you're seeing some real bonanza type numbers there. But then you also see things like 18 meters of 2.3 grams per ton gold and 25 grams per ton silver. So it's got a nice mix of some thicker intersections there, some high grade. High grade tends to be over fairly narrow intersections. And then here, look at the stock, George. Have been under a lot of pressure since March, making lower lows and lower highs. Kind of broke that trend a bit here, but then it jumped back on the lower lows and the lower highs. I think that now it's made that bottom again, right around when gold was making a bottom, and it's coming back pretty aggressively, a little too aggressively. In the short term for me, over the next week or two, I'd look for it to pull back to maybe 95-ish cents, which I'd feel a lot more comfortable about it. But again, I wanted to talk about the company because of the quality of the results, and then give you sort of it isn't a today pick, it's more of a week to 10 days from now pick. But the results will be kind of older by then, so I wanted to talk about it when it was still news.
Yeah, I'm glad you pointed out the lower lows. You can see me doing something here. You can see me drawing these lines. Can you see me drawing those lines on it?
Yep.
All right, so I'm glad you pointed that out. I want to see that trend break. Personally, when I see this, and nothing lasts forever, so it doesn't mean it's going to keep dropping forever. But the bands are pretty wide, relatively speaking, for a stock at this level. You're talking about 75 cents to $1.18. That's a huge width. That's why as wide as it's been.
To the number, let's say, okay, now you want to see it break that lower. It was making lower highs, and you want
to see it break this, and specifically what I want. So to break that trend, what I want to see it do is break that.
Okay, so there's where you and I are a little bit different. What I'm looking for is I look at your bottom line
Mm-hmm.
and I want to see it have a higher low the next time it comes back. And that's what I was talking about. I think you'll see in the next 10 days, where you get a chance.
You want to see it remain above that.
Yeah, above 95-ish, around there. If it stays above there, then it hits the indicator that I like, which is a higher low, and then I think it's got a chance to make a run at your higher high. So that's, that we look at.
This quite often comes up. This is a good technical lesson for everyone at home. The stock is sitting where what I like to call, and Allan's heard me say this before. It's sitting in what's called technical no man's land, which means we either want to see it come back to here, which is easy. A lot of people would say that, or you want to see it go over this, which is strange, right? Because people say, wait, you either want to buy it, you either want to buy it here at 85 cents. Or 83 cents or so. Let's say 85 because it would be a higher low. So you want to buy it 85 or you want to buy it at $1.28. Yeah, it's either one or the other. Both of those are technical triggers. In between, you could wish-wash in there all day long, and you don't want to be in there. So I think we're both right. We just have, and I would agree with you. If it got down to that, if I saw it hit 85,
actually, I think
I would be a buyer also. If it hit 85 and held, then you buy it.
George, I think the market will show you how we can both be right. I think my higher low will get hit, and then I think from there it'll take it to your higher high.
Yeah, and I'm happy with either one being hit. Ideally, if you get a double out of it, where you get the first and then you get the second, fantastic. But who knows? I may not make it to the second. If I'm a buyer here, if I'm a buyer here at the 85-cent level, I'd probably be a seller. I'd probably be a seller at $1.05, $1.10.
I think most people pay more attention to what's happening on the breakouts and the up moves than they do on the down moves. And I've always been a real fan of watching that lower low or higher low.
Me too. I got to admit, I don't like buying breakouts as much as I like buying bottoms where it's a double bottom or a higher low, things like that.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. I think I got a candidate here based on their news where I like the news. I'm a little nervous about the short-term stock, but I made a call that I think it'll hit that, on the next pullback to look for a range there where, 10 days from now, this will be a pick. So it gets a little more challenging, but to sort of follow.
Patience is a virtue, right? I think sometimes you make great fundamental picks, but you believe in the fundamentals so much, so you say, yeah, George, I'm a buyer here. And sometimes, and I think more often than not, I've been right where I say, I like the pick, but wait a bit, and here's why.
Yeah.
So a little bit of patience actually is not a bad thing.
Yeah, I think what happens, George, is the news is so fresh, right? And it impresses me, so I want to talk about it, right? Even though maybe the chart has sort of started to bounce a little more aggressively than I would like. So it's kind of given me some mental anguish sometimes.
Get it, Georgie.
There's been some no problem, George. There's been some mental anguish for me before because, like I do want to talk about the company, but it's sort of a pick 10 days from now, not today. So I figured out this is a better way for me to talk about them.
And that's our job, right? Our job is not necessarily to listen. I trade. Everyone sees my trades when I post them online, but the purpose of this is to give people great ideas, to understand how we think, and then they go learn, right? They learn. They watch the show enough, they say, oh, I understand. Here are the fundamentals. I understand why they're using that as a top end, as a bottom end, why these are their triggers, and you learn at home. And I think that's a good time to also give our normal disclaimer. As you know, we're not here to tell you what to buy or sell. Allan and I have significantly different risk profiles than you might. So what you've got to do is learn from it, watch what we do, but speak to your financial advisor, speak to your spouse, partner, make sure you assess your own personal risk and your own personal circumstances. I might throw $25,000, $50,000 at something. I might throw 5,000 at something. I might not throw anything at it. So, and we always disclose if they're a client or if we got a position, we always disclose that. So make sure no one thinks we're talking our book. But this is strictly a learning exercise for everyone at home. And Allan, great show again, man. I want to thank you for making your picks.
George, it's a very exciting time for me right now. I mentioned that I was downtown yesterday, and I walked downtown, and because I've been on TV quite a bit, a lot of people recognize me and they want to come up and talk to me and everything. And a lot of these guys downtown, they're all like, oh, it's a tough market and everything like that. Whereas I've probably never been as excited about the business as I am right now, and it's just simply because there's so many opportunities out there.
So many babies. Can I sum it up like this for you? So many babies have been thrown out the bathwater because all the bathwater stuff are the lawyers and brokers who try to run their own gold deals and got killed because they don't understand the first thing about gold. But those are overwhelming on the TSX Venture Exchange, especially, not as much on the CSE. And now all those guys getting hammered. What does that do? Brings down all the good guys with.
Well, just thinking it on that.
IDM mining, for example, taking a beating for no good reason. Well, I feel bad for those guys, but great opportunity. I think there's a multi-generational great opportunity for us and people at home to make some really great picks the next 3-4 years.
George, it's funny that we often, think along the same lines. And what you just said there about the generation, it's not just the quality of the projects that are coming to my table, coming to my desk, but also the quality of the people. For example, one of my really good buddies is a geologist. His name's Bob Singh. And Bob had been working for a company for a long time, and they had some difficult challenges, and he had to spread out. They couldn't pay him anymore, so he had to go on his own. And so one of the first phone calls he makes is to me, and right away, I've known Bob's skills for a long time, and so Bob and I decided we're gonna put some stuff together. And what I think, what is so important about what Bob brings to the table, and this makes sense for the entire industry, George, is we talk about the 80s and the 90s as the lost generation in the mining business. During those periods, the price of those metals were way down. Not as many people were entering into the business on the professional side or students into the geology side. So there's a group of people that I'm in the midst of that generation that are, let's say, between late 30s and mid to late 50s. Okay, that's called the lost generation. Now, what's also interesting about this, and this is where Bob really separates himself from the rest of what is a small group of peers, is those older guys that were in the generation that got in before, let's say, 78, when gold went through the roof. They were kind of real rock guys, right? They were only really interested in the rock. These were guys that, when they were growing up, they loved to go out and fish and stuff like that and spend their time on the land. And so they got into geology because they could spend their career doing that. Those guys are now retiring. Sadly, Bob and I lost one of our mentors recently, a guy named Bob Darney. Our mentors for the guys that are the folks that are in that lost generation, they're getting out of the business. They're retiring. Some made a lot of money. They no longer need to work in the business. And what we're seeing is that, so they never really adopted technology. And Bob is really skilled at that technology. So what you have there is the mentors are leaving the business. You've got the lost generation. And most of the people in that lost generation don't know how to use the technology that well. Whereas Bob, that's what he really excels at. And so, I'm not just seeing that, it is a generational thing that's happening here. And I think what that's going to cause, George, which really excites me, is that because there's fewer people out there with those exceptional skills, there's going to be less junk companies out there that are just, they won't be able to find the technical people for the promoters to hook up with. And so, you know, I'm
concentrate. Talking about things that get concentrated, which is what we want. We don't want 2,000 companies. We want 200 or 300 really good ones, and that's really more than good.
Exactly.
I agree 100%.
That excites me tremendously, that the cream will then rise to the top, and that, you know, then people have a much better chance of doing something positive with their stocks than, you know, than putting it into some moose pasture in Saskatchewan that's never going to turn up with anything but a stock play, and you know, that's a recipe for disaster.
Well said, and that's the message we want to put out to everybody out there, which is we know small caps are taking a beating, but Allan and I are carrying the flag, and we're telling everyone out there that this is the time you find opportunity, and we've done it time and time again. We've done it. We made our picks. Some we lose on. That's why we set our stop loss is about 12% below where we buy them, so we don't ride it at the bottom. But we made great picks time and time again. We've proven it, and that's why we're happy everyone's watching. And that message should get out to all small cap investors out there, which is concentrate your funds on the good companies, and great things will happen over the next couple of years. That's a wrap. That's a wrap for the show, Allan. We're going to wish everyone at home in the U.S. a happy Thanksgiving. For our Canadian friends, it's going to be a slow couple of days in the market, so you probably want to get away from your screens and come back on Monday. Go enjoy your own families. And tomorrow night, cheer on our Cowboys. Hopefully they can officially take first place in the division tomorrow against the Eagles.
You know, George, this one's a big. George and I are both Cowboys fans. You know, you know the saying. But George, this one's a real season. This will tell us a lot. If they can beat Philly's a good, solid team.
Good team. They're a good team. I hate them, but they're good.
And they've tended to screw us in the season at crucial times over the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
If we can jump this hump, we might just have a chance.
I think we beat them tomorrow. That's because our defense shuts down Sanchez, who won't be able to handle the pressure on Thanksgiving. And hope to God that I didn't just give him the kiss of death where he ends up with a 500-yard passing game and sets the record of his life. Because that's why I don't bet on football. Allan knows I'm not gonna drag up the story. I don't bet on football because whatever I usually bet on is the exact opposite. So hopefully I didn't just give the Cowboys the kiss of death with that Sanchez criticism.
That Philly's a good team, and I think we beat them. It's sort of like what Seattle just went through with Atlanta. You know, I didn't think Seattle was going to, you know, I thought they were going to have a hard time getting to the playoffs. But they got that crucial game against Arizona.
Not Atlanta, Arizona, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, not Atlanta, Arizona, who's a really top team. So this is our test. We've got our test tomorrow.
Well, enjoy, guys. Everyone in the U.S., have fun, be safe, and we will see you next week. Until then, have a fantastic weekend.